Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial, and we're doing an impromptu live stream, uh, kind of on the fly. We had to change some stuff around. We were gonna do an album exchange, but we figured out that there was some daylight saving
Scheduling,
time,
some scheduling
Yeah,
issues.
some scheduling issues because of
day,
daylight.
daylight savings hasn't happened for me yet.
It kind of screwed us again. This happens to me every time. Like I was telling Briar, usually I'm like an hour early to like one of your live streams, and I figure out, oh, it's because daylight savings time. I'm there way too early. This time it was the other way around, but we were able to come up with something together, luckily. So we're doing 1980s Music Hall of Fame. We did a 60s and we did a 70s. Now we're moving on to 1980s. And we got here, I'm joined with Briar from Briar Music Showcase and Adam from What the Gym.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Also, Jacob from Jacob Martin and Scott from Scott's Scrap Dog Records.
Scrap Dog Scott's Records.
Scrap Dog Scott's Records. Is also will join on a different stream. The five of us each picked 10 artists, bands from the 1980s to talk about, to put into our own, basically like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we're just calling it the Music Hall of Fame. And hopefully get in people that deserve it, people that maybe aren't in other Hall of Fames that should be in there, and kind of highlight some of our favorites from this decade, in our opinion anyway. So Briar and Adam are going to do their 10, and I'm going to do 5 of my 10 on this stream and save my other 5 for the other stream. Anyway, so it's kind of like part 1 of usually hopefully 2 parts to this 1980s. And then we'll do a 1990s on another date yet to be determined. Anyways, but yeah. So I guess we'll just get into it. Why don't we start with you, Briar? What's your first
pick? My first
nomination or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, first nomination for me. Okay, I'm going to start with this person. I'm going to start off with who is often considered the queen of pop. I couldn't do the king of pop because somebody took him already, but I went with the next best thing. And of course, the queen of pop is referring to Madonna. Madonna, of course, she released her first album in 1983. And I don't own it, but I know it was kind of there was some success. She had a couple of hits on here, like Holiday. That was a pretty big hit for her on the album. But really, it came down to her second album, which is what I have right here. And that is, of course, Like a Virgin, which had many big hit singles, of course, produced by Niles Rodgers of Chic. And yeah, this did huge numbers. Of course, you have the title track, Material Girl, Angel, Dress You Up. Just of course, this like blew her up into the stratosphere. I mean, of course, another thing about Madonna, of course, was she was pretty influential for. I mean, when it comes to Madonna, for me, I always feel like she was kind of like the first, like when we think of the modern female pop star, you can all kind of trace it back to Madonna, which is how she portrayed herself on stage, how she dressed, how she performed. Dealing, kind of more sexual, more sexual, so shall we say?
Definitely.
Yeah. There we go.
She had a book out that was just called Sex, by the way.
Yeah. There you
go.
Really? Yeah.
And she had an album in the 90s called Erotica. So there's that too. But regardless of that, again, it's kind of, she was pushing boundaries because of that. Nowadays, it's kind of more acceptable these days in music. But but I always kind of feel bad for Madonna in some regards, because I feel like these days, she doesn't really get as much. Not many people talk about her these days, because it's funny because I watched. When I watched reaction videos, there was like a video that went around. It was about like the biggest hits of the 1980s, and whenever and there was people who would react to it and stuff like that. And every time Madonna would come out, people will have no idea what the song was. Like they've never heard of this song before. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because again, she was like a huge figure in the 80s. Yeah, so it's kind of sad that it feels like she's kind of being pushed to the wayside. But I still think she's definitely deserving of the recognition and the influence on modern music in general. Um, Whether you like her style or not, like it got very popular, and of course she's you know still, I think she's still pretty highly regarded. I know there's a lot of people that still cite her as an influence. But that's gonna be my first choice, Madonna, of course. And also I hit the mic, but of course don't also want to bring up the next album, of course, Like a Prayer, which was also a big hit. But
Yeah,
that's the other big album I have of hers.
yeah,
But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, she's still. I think her last album was in 2019. But yeah, but she's still going. She's still doing her thing. I heard that there's going to be a movie about her at some point.
yeah.
And I think I heard Madonna's going to direct it herself, so that should be interesting.
Well,
Um,
she was in a Weird Al movie.
oh yeah, that's true. She was in. Yeah, that's right. That's one thing I can give. That's one thing I'll say about
You
Madonna.
forgot about the whole drug lord part of her.
Yeah, I haven't forgiven her about that. How she put that hit on Weird Al.
Yeah, that's the weird part of her.
Yeah, that's
No one seems to talk about that part.
I know. I'm one of those people that forgot about it.
We
but,
gloss over the whole drug taking over the drug cartel in Colombia, and
yeah, all for that Weird Al bump.
that torrid affair she had with the Weird Al there for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that part
Yeah.
of her history.
Yeah, like I said, some people like her, some people don't. For various reasons. That could be one of them. But there we go. That's my first pick, Madonna.
I to be honest, I don't think there's anybody bigger than Madonna in the 80s. I mean, if you look at how many number one hits, she had so many number one hits, probably the most number one hits out of anybody from the 80s period. It shocked me when I look at the number ones. It was like Madonna. It was like every year there's a bunch of Madonna number one. So I was like, oh man, she was way bigger than I knew because I was just a kid in the 80s, so I didn't realize how big she was. Yeah, she also was an actress.
Right.
Her best role was, she did a musical. Was it called Evita? I think it was, where she played Evita, and pretty good role. Where she had the "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." It was like a big song. She also had a pretty good resurgence in the 2000s, I think.
Yes, yeah, she had a little bit.
What was it called? She had a, "Let the Music Keep Us Together." It was like a big song, and then her stuff on Austin Powers was really good. Beautiful Stranger.
A James Bond theme as well.
And she had a James Bond theme song with "Die Another Day." Yeah, so yeah, definitely deserves one of the biggest of the 80s, in my opinion. All right, Adam, you want to do your first?
Yep. I'm going to pick a band for the 1980s. I've got a CD next to me here. And that's the band Dire Straits. They've had 6 studio albums, and half of them were released in the decade of 1980, which is probably the biggest decade for the band, especially with the album Brothers in Arms, which is one of the better albums of the 80s.
That's the big one, yeah.
Especially this time period. Yeah. But they've had so many incredible songs, and of course you've got great musicians on their songs and albums, and you got the lead singer Mark Knopfler. He's one of the better guitarists out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, that's my first choice. Dire Straits.
Yeah, my favorite is I keep starting a sentence and I don't know what I'm going to say after I start it, because I'm hoping the song will come to me, but it's not.
You get used to it.
What's that?
You get used to that.
One of the earlier songs I really love from them, Sultans and Swing.
There you go. Yes,
that's one of my favorites.
That's my favorite.
That's the big one.
It's one of the debut.
Yeah.
Dire Straits album.
Yeah, the guitar playing is just so good. Anyways, besides that, Money for Nothing was a huge song for them.
I think Money for Nothing's my favorite.
Yeah, that was one that was on MTV all the time, if I remember right.
With that incredible guitar intro.
Yeah, and the music video was like iconic, but yeah.
Yeah. Even Weird Al did his own.
Yes,
version of that.
he did. Yeah, on UHF, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was like a last minute change because I
Oh,
think
really?
he wanted to do Prince originally, but Prince rejected him.
Yeah, he rejected him. That's right. Huh, Prince. That sounds familiar. Like he
Yeah.
could be on this list.
Well,
Anyways,
speaking of Prince, my next choice.
is it?
Yep.
Good segue.
That's ironic.
Yes. But yeah, Prince. I had to throw him in here. Again, another huge person in the 80s. Kind of a similar thing with Madonna, where again he kind of pushed the boundaries of sexuality when it comes to music.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, look at this album cover. It just tells you right off the bat. And it's called Dirty Mind. So there you go.
Of all the albums.
Yeah. But Prince is definitely an interesting one. Definitely the most fascinating musicians out there because there's always like this mystique about him that he always kind of kept. Sort of like Michael Jackson, or only but only they kind of play it differently. I think Michael Jackson was a lot more in the spotlight. Prince was kind of like on the background. And people will sometimes compare the two, but to me, I don't think they're that similar in terms of musically. Like Michael Jackson was always trying to get the biggest hits, while Prince was kind of like still getting pop hits, but kind of there's something about them that kind of made him stand out. Something different. It's not like your traditional pop music. Of course, he blended so many genres, like of course, like R&B, funk, rock, new wave, soul, synth pop, jazz, blues. Like he's pretty much all over the map when it comes to his music. And he's another one of those artists who has a very extensive catalog. Like I think his last album he has over 30, almost 40 albums. Yeah, he was busy. A lot of
albums, yeah.
He was busy. Yeah, a lot of stuff, but his most well-known stuff was in the 80s. His first album was in 78, but of course it was 1980 when he released this album, Dirty Mind, which that's when it was really pushing the boundaries here. Of course, this album had like When You Were Mine, which was a pretty big hit for him, a little early hit for him, kind of a more new wave sound to it. But it was kind of till we get to this album where this is where he really blew up with 1999. Of course, the title track was huge. Of course, Little Red Corvette's on here as well. Very sexual lyrics, but which is another theme of his. But again, another thing that's pretty admirable about Prince is just how he's a very talented musician. Like he can play almost anything. I know on his debut album, he played everything himself.
All 27 instruments.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely, that's another difference with
27 instruments.
Yeah, I didn't know there were 27.
No, but yeah, that's another reason why I think Prince is way different than Michael, because Michael didn't really play too many instruments. Prince was very much a musician person. But yeah, of course, this album did well, but this album did even better. Still his most popular album, and that of course was this album, Purple Rain. Okay, of course there was also a movie on this because Prince wanted to get into movies.
Yeah, very interesting.
I've seen the movie. It's okay, but it's one of those movies where the music pretty much steals the show. Yeah, but yeah, even though the movie was kind of mixed, the album itself did huge business. Of course, this had tons of hit singles like "Let's Go Crazy," of course, "When Doves Cry," the title track.
Yeah.
I mean, just a landmark album here. And yeah, this is still my favorite Prince album. I would say, just top to bottom, all great stuff. And then of course he would still have lots of hit singles throughout the 80s. And then even he also did the soundtrack to the Michael Keaton Batman movie. I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because he was a huge Batman fan, so he wanted to do it. But yeah, and then everything after that, he kind of fizzled, not really fizzled out. He was still releasing stuff, but then I know in the 90s there was like a huge dispute with his record label, and so he ended up changing his name to the symbol that we just called the artist formerly known as Prince.
Who knows Prince? That's so
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So that was a weird time period.
That was
But he eventually got over that. But yeah, like I said, 39 albums. Yeah, he just kept cranking it out. But yeah, he just has to be on here just because it's just how big of a figure he was in the 80s, and he's still highly respected today. Yeah, great musician, great singer. Of course, he's had a very wide range because he could do low, but he can also do these shrieks, like almost like blood curdling shrieks at times. But I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's gonna be my next pick, Prince.
Yeah, when I was in the 90s, when I first heard of Prince, it was the artist formerly known as Prince. So I've only known him as the artist formerly known, which I thought was weird as a kid. I was like,
yeah,
artist. That was, in fact, I feel like that overshadowed his music. To be honest,
yeah.
I think of Prince, I just think, what a weirdo. I don't think about music at all, which is unfortunate, I suppose, that all that stuff happened and it kind of overshadowed everything. It wasn't until much later that I found out, like, oh, like he's actually like a well-respected musician, and and like his albums are huge, like 1999,
Purple
Rain, and then there's like one more that's like always on a list, but
yeah, there's like Sign of the Times was another big seller for him.
Yeah, that was a big seller. Yeah. Anyways, I haven't gotten into Prince personally, but he was obviously definitely huge in the 80s. Interesting person.
Oh yeah.
All right, Adam, you're second.
I'm going to go with another 80s band. Got quite a few on my list. And that's the band Europe.
Europe.
Yeah.
I've actually seen Europe live.
Whole continent.
Well. Yeah. And they've had 11 studio albums, 4 from the 1980s. Prize got their biggest album there.
The Final Countdown.
They did Final Countdown. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's got their biggest song, of course, Final Countdown.
Was that in a movie?
Probably.
I don't know.
I think it's probably been in a few movies.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure some sports team used it.
Probably.
That's probably my favorite Europe song.
Yeah.
Although I do like Carrie as well. I think that's on the album.
Yeah, that's on there too.
Okay.
But the lead singer of Europe, I think it's got a fantastic voice. I think it's what makes the band unique was that lead singer. So yeah, that's my second choice.
Yeah, I mean, when you picked Europe, that's kind of why I ended up getting this, because they're a band I really need to get into, because I heard, of course, I know the big hits, but I didn't know much else. So I'm like, I wonder if there's any like hidden gems. So I bought this. I also bought their first 2 albums. So I'm definitely curious to check out more of them. What's behind the hits?
I say I don't know much about the band myself, except for the Final Countdown. I've heard that song. I feel like it's in commercials or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit lot of different
probably.
Stuff.
Countdown. Yeah. I wonder if they have some other hits I'm not thinking of, but yeah. I have to hear more of them. I forgot to put these on here. Prince almost recorded too many songs.
He did record a lot.
A lot.
And it said Prince wrote Manic Monday for the Bangles.
That is true.
Oh yeah.
He also wrote the Sinead O'Connor hits.
Yes.
Nothing compares to
Nothing
you.
compares to you. Yeah.
Which blew my mind, because that's a huge song for Sinead O'Connor. That's like that's her song, like her big song. And it wasn't until recently that I found out that Prince, like, he does this, he wrote it and he does it, I think, on one of his albums.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll like give out songs to people that he liked.
Anyways, but yeah, that's cool. All right. Briar, third.
Okay, my third choice. Okay, we're going to Ireland. And probably the biggest band from Ireland, and that, of course, is U2.
U2.
Right. So U2, again, like I said, they started in Ireland. They're from Dublin, and they formed in 1976. Of course, you have the main lineup. You have Bono on lead vocals, The Edge on guitar. Then you have Adam Clayton on bass and Larry Mullen Jr. on drums. And, when they first started, they were kind of more in the punk sort of scene, was kind of more in lines. in what was going on in the punk scene. But then they kind of quickly kind of shit off that edge. They kind of incorporating more pop sensibilities into their music. Is that right?
Did you say Edge?
Yeah, the Edge.
Yeah, he's called the Edge.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna go by his real name is David Howell Evans. But the Edge sounds cooler.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. But yeah, so they released their first album. It was called Boy, and that was in 1980. And they released a couple albums. They had The Boy, then they had October, but then it was kind of this album, War, that kind of where they really started to make more of a notice. Of course, this had the first song, Sunday Bloody Sunday.
That's a good album cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool album cover.
Yeah, they actually used this image of this kid on their first album. So they've heard of this kid quite a bit. But yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday, kind of a protest song because I think there was like a massacre that went on in Ireland at the time. So they kind of had to do something about that. And this album also had another big hit, New Year's Day, which, sounds like a good party song, but really not really.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, no. But yeah, it's just a good blend of kind of like post-punk, rock. Let me see. Yeah, just a good mixture of those two. So very good album. And then this next album did even bigger business, The Unforgettable Fire. Of course, you had Pride, this was kind of when they really wanted to push to that American market. So there's a lot of songs on here that kind of reflect American culture. Like, of course, Pride's about Martin Luther King Jr. And there's literally a song called MLK. So they're definitely kind of pushing more towards that sound. But still, very nice album. But then we get to what most people consider their best album, and my personal favorite too, and that's of course the Joshua Tree from '87. Yeah, great album. This is them fully embracing a sort of American sort of sound because you have lots of roots rock influence, and yeah, and you have big songs like Where the Streets Have No Name, just that really cool guitar intro. Again, the Edge really pioneered these like guitar effects that really put
down a little bit with this one, or am I crazy?
Yeah, I think so. This is when the guitar was taking more of like a more, I can't describe it, kind of a more ambience, not quite ambience, little ambience, but definitely has a much more intricate sound.
Yeah.
That was not really used that too often, but yeah, that intro just perfectly sums it up. The Edge is playing. Then you have other songs like Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. Then they had the great power ballad With or Without You, which I love that song. But they still have their kind of like post-punk sound, like Bullet in the Blue Sky is kind of a more punkish sort of rock sound. But yeah, it's definitely a terrific album. And so I'd say this is like when they were at their peak, and it goes out saying, I mean, their live shows are considered legendary because of just how they get into it. It's like I've seen footage of it and how Bono just gets the crowd going and stuff like that, and it's crazy. I think I've read that they have one of the best-selling tours ever, like very high up. Like it made tons of money. I can't remember which tour it was for, but I know it was huge. But there's that.
Vegas or something? Am I crazy?
Yeah, they do. I think they have a residency in Vegas right now. Yeah. And from that point on, that's when it kind of gets a bit hit or miss for some people because the 90s, you have them trying to be current. They want to be more. They want to see what the other people are doing. I mean, probably the best album of the 90s is Uptown Baby, which is pretty good. There's some good songs on here. But then you have like Zooropa, which is okay, which I've heard. I don't own it, but I've heard bits of it, and it sounds okay. But then you have Pop, which is they're going to more Euro dance thing, which to many people that did not work at all. And from that point on, for most people, it kind of fizzles out. But they did have one big hit in the 2000s with Beautiful Day. Which, that's a great song.
Won a Grammy.
Yeah, won a Grammy. And, and there's that. But then there's also controversy. Some people say Bono is a little pretentious with his like activism. And then there's that whole fiasco of putting one of their albums on every iPhone. But luckily I didn't have an iPhone by that point. So But take that away. They're U2, yeah, they've had some misfires, but unforgettable fires, but yeah, they're definitely a great, really good stuff, really good bands. I think they should deserve some recognition, so they need some love. So there you go. That was my next choice, U2.
Yeah, their album, How to
Disassemble a Atomic Bomb.
Oh yeah.
Album of the year. Yeah, that one, and yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, they had some. That was kind of to me that was almost a surprise because I was like, U2, like it's 2000, not the 90s or the 80s, like so it's kind of this. But the Grammys love to do that. They love to grab an older act with a newer album and put it at Grammy of the year. But man, U2 is one of my favorite bands of the 80s. Sure, I do love a lot of their hits and stuff are really.
I've still never heard a U2 album.
Yeah,
but I recently got the Joshua Tree
yes.
on vinyl.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good album.
To that very, very soon.
That is a great album. Yeah. Keith says U2 could be called the Irish equivalent of the Beatles.
So yeah,
maybe.
I guess you could say that.
Maybe the biggest band to come out of Ireland. I don't know.
I would say so.
I can't think of any other big bands.
Yeah, can't think of any
here in Ireland.
Not quite the variety of the Beatles. Yeah,
not really.
I mean, Adam would know. Adam's a little bit closer to Ireland than we are. He might know. You like some Irish stuff, though. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Adam, your third pick.
Right, my third pick. We're to keep on going with the 80s bands, and I'm going to go with see an album next to me here. That's Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi.
And I've actually seen Bon Jovi live about 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the first concerts I went to.
Cool.
It was in Hyde Park in London.
Oh, Hyde Park. That's cool.
Yeah. It's the only other time I've been there. But yeah, they're one of my favourite 80s bands. They're one of my favourite bands growing up. And in fact, my mum and dad recently went to Bon Jovi tribute. And they've seen Bon Jovi live quite a few times.
Oh, okay.
I think they're my mum's favourite band.
Oh, okay. Bon Jovi. Cool.
Okay.
But they've had a lot. They had a lot of big hits that came out in the 80s. And
right. Yeah.
Still making music now. I think they've got a new album coming out this year.
Oh, really?
Their 15th studio album. But "Living on a Prayer" is their biggest song. But the album I've got here is probably one of their biggest albums. It's got Blood on Blood and Bad Medicine's on that one.
Is it Slippery When Wet?
Blood on Blood's my favorite Bon Jovi song. But yeah, Slippery When Wet.
Yeah,
that's got "Living on a Prayer" on it.
Yeah.
And I think it's got a few other big hits on it as well. That's probably their biggest selling album.
Yeah.
But this one's probably close second. New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got Mike here.
Hello.
Three Legends.
Yes. Yeah, I shaved this morning. I look a little bit young.
Now I look like the old man here.
Yeah.
You should be Jason, the new millennial.
The new millennial.
Yeah, I'm taking over.
I had to
even though I'm technically Gen Z.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing all these live streams with these people in their 20s, so I have to compete with them. So I have to look a little bit younger now. Just a different look. Like why do something different? Yeah, Bon Jovi. I mean, they're part of what you call the hair. Like I think the hair
metal. Yeah.
Yeah, they all had really long hair in the 80s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those. And
Hairspray galore.
Yeah, they had the big hair.
I forgot to mention how many albums they've got. I think I did mention they've got 15 studio albums. And 4 of them came out in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, Living on a Prayer and what's the You Give Love a Bad Name?
Yeah, that's it. Those are like the two big songs you're going to hear on the radio.
Those are the ones you hear on the radio all the time.
Yeah, they do appear a lot.
I think later on he had an album out that was actually pretty big in the maybe, I don't know, 2000s or 2010s. And he had like My Life was like a big song.
Yeah. That was
My Life, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Now-
a big song.
Yeah, that was like a big song for him. So he kind of came back with that. But
You know,
yeah,
he acted. You know, the lead singer, he
does.
acted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw one of his movies when I was in high school. It's like one of those like promoting love, not hate sort of thing. It was kind of cheesy, but you know.
Yeah, Wanted Dead or Alive. That's another. Wanted Dead or Alive. Yeah, I say he has a lot of good stuff there. I haven't really gotten into his music or listened to his albums anyway, so that'd be one I have to get at some point. Yeah, I just shaved for the heck of it. I just thought I've had that goatee for a while. I thought I'll shave it and do something different.
I was going to grow a goatee.
I said you should grow one and it would look different. Briar always had the beard look, I guess, or not always.
No, I've shaved before.
You shaved
but,
before, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like you. It's like sporadic. Like, it's getting long. It's getting oily. I better get rid of it.
Well, if you look at my older videos, I have a beard. I think on some of those, like sometimes I grow a beard, sometimes I gotta goatee, sometimes I shave. It's just want to keep people guessing. I just wanted to pop in and say hello. I'm about to watch the 9th and final American Pie. Nine American Pie.
Jesus.
I've not seen any of them.
Are you talking about? I'm guessing it must be like one of their what do you call it?
Yeah, I'm sticking to Don McClane.
Side project. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more about the Don McClane American Pie.
I think Madonna covered it about American Pie.
Oh yeah, I think she did, and I've heard it's terrible.
Not heard of it.
Yeah, there's 9 American Pie. I there's a lot of side movies with the characters. Maybe I don't know if they're all American Pie.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's like, I want to say there's only maybe 3 or 4 American Pies, but then there's a bunch of other side spin-offs. Yeah, spin-offs. That's what I was gonna say. There's tons of spin-offs, but yeah. Okay. Power to you. All right, so we're to Briar again.
It's my turn, yeah. Okay. So no, in one point in my contenders, I did have Phil Collins, but somebody took him. But I had to go with the I guess other best choice, and that is Peter Gabriel. So of course, most people, I hope most people know that, of course, Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins were in a band together. They were in Genesis for a time. But then in the mid 70s, Peter decided to leave Genesis. But then in 1977, he released his first album called Peter Gabriel, and of course this did pretty well. I mean, it had his first big hit with Salisbury Hill, which was a pretty well-known song for him. So this did some good stuff here. Then he released his second album, which I don't have, also called Peter Gabriel, and so then we have his third album, also called Peter Gabriel.
What?
It's kind
It's
of like Led Zeppelin. You know, we had Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3. This is kind of like in that same vein.
Okay.
But yeah, this is his third album, which actually this was his first album of the 80s. 1980 this came out, and this had some pretty well-known songs as well. This had Games Without Frontiers, which is probably the best known song on here. And the first song I should probably mention, Intruder. Of course, you have Phil Collins guest on the album. He plays drums on the first song, and that's kind of where that sort of big gated drum sound came from. Like, you know, In the Air Tonight has that ba 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 ba, that big drum sound. You can kind of trace that back to when Phil did it on this album. So it's
cool.
Peter Gabriel was kind of one of those artists where he was definitely trying to play around with pop pop, but also incorporate more different elements to it. He's often lumped as pop, as art pop or art rock sort of thing, like more experimental, shall we say, but still just poppy enough that people can get into it. So this did well. He released his 4th album. Can you guess what this is called?
It's called Peter Gabriel.
There you go. Correct. But yeah, kind of similar vein. Again, but really, it wasn't until 1986 he released his 5th album, not called Peter Gabriel this time. It was called So.
Okay, that's one I know.
Yeah. All right. So this did huge. This was huge for him. Of course, this was actually competing with Genesis because they released Invisible Touch around the same time. Yeah. I think Invisible Touch had number 1 at first, but then Peter Gabriel took it over with Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
So one of those kind of funny. There was no bad blood though. But yeah, this album has lots of pop sounds to it, but still has a more world beat sort of sounds like Red Rain. Has a more African flair to it, which Peter Gabriel was a huge African music fan. He loved the percussion of it, and so incorporated stuff here. Then I already mentioned Sledgehammer. Of course, that was a huge hit. Of course, the music video is iconic.
Yeah.
I know that he had to basically lie there for hours each day because it was all stop motion.
Yeah.
But I know it won an MTV award and for it, which is deservedly so. It's a very creative music video. And I think the video was actually made by the same people who made Wallace and Gromit. So there's that. But then there's also other songs I love, like Don't Give Up. Very personal song to me. Of course, Kate Bush guest stars. And so, of course, I'm going to love that one. But yeah, just a very powerful, great ballad there. Big Time was a big hit, but of course, In Your Eyes. One of the great ballads of the 80s. Just, again, it has this very commercial feel, but the percussion, again, kind of harking an African beat to it, which is very cool. But yeah, great ballad from him. Mm-hmm. Of course, the iconic like boombox.
Yeah.
I know before I knew about that, I think I saw South Park do a parody of it. Only one of the characters played the wrong song. Because he said play Peter Gabriel to get your girl back, and so the guy, one of the characters, played Shock the Monkey, which has not romantic at all, and of course a black kid came by, so that did not do well for him either. So yeah. Anyhow, so after that, he would keep on going. He would still release albums, but they were starting to get a bit less poppy and kind of more focusing on world music. And so, of course, people still enjoy them. He says voice is still good. And even today, like literally last year, he released his latest album, I.O., which, again, there's like a whole 20-year break between the last album and this. Wow. Yes. And for me, I really enjoyed it. I think he, even after all these years, his voice still sounds great. Musically is still pretty interesting. And he's worked with the same people for quite a while. But yeah, Peter Gabriel, just one of those people that always tries to push pop music to new grounds, incorporating more different sounds into the music. It's just fascinating stuff. So yeah, that's my next pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he had a song on the movie Wall-E as well.
That's right.
So really?
It was in the end credits.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got Henry. Hi, Henry.
Hello.
Hello, Henry.
He says, I like 80s music, Michael Jackson, Madonna, which
we already talked about them.
That was Briar's first, I believe, that he talked about Madonna. Mm-hmm. Michael Jackson will be talked about on this channel, or in this live stream, but he'll be talked about in the next live stream. We will get to Michael Jackson. The king, I guess you said the king and queen of pop, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, she is.
All right. Adam, you're fourth, right? Yeah.
Yep. And I'll do another 80s band. And this is another one I've seen live, and that's Whitesnake.
Whitesnake. Yeah, that's right. You did see. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw them with
Last-
Europe and Foreigner. All three of
Nice.
them.
That's a good lineup.
Yeah, more hair bands, right?
Sort of.
Or maybe not.
I mean, at some point, yeah, they did, but early
Okay.
on, they weren't really that.
Okay.
But they've had 13 studio albums, 5 from the 80s. And their biggest song is Here I Go Again,
Mm-hmm.
which is my favourite song of theirs.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's one of the better songs of the 1980s. Especially rock songs of the 80s.
Yeah, I was big on the radio.
We've had quite a few other hits as well. Like Is This Love? Is This Love's one of their
Yeah.
bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're one of the better rock bands of the 80s.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
a bit more they're a bit more bluesy than
Yeah.
Right.
some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like where they started out. They kind of started as like a blues rock band in like the late 70s, but as the 80s went on, it kind of shifted to a more commercial rock sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their big album is called Whitesnake. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah, it's called Whitesnake, but people just say 1987 because that's when it came out.
Okay. That's the one that you showed me before.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to, I mean. I think it has their big hit on it.
Yeah, it has the big hits on it.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Here I Go Again, like that version, is actually not the original version. They actually
there's 3 versions of that song.
Yeah, the original one was on their 5th album. I can't remember. It was there's 1982 album Sins and Sinners, which had the very original version of Here I Go Again.
Okay.
It's similar, but definitely not what we know of it. Like the keyboard intro is very different. It's a bit slower, the original version. Like it was kind of like one of those songs where it was kind of made for the late 80s. It needed to be in the late 80s for it to work.
So, yeah, I'm trying to remember the album. Was it not heavy metal too in there, or am I crazy? Whitesnake, did they do any heavy metal, or I'm thinking of somebody else?
They're sometimes lumped into it, but I don't really consider them that heavy enough.
Because I remember a lot of songs I wasn't a fan of until they do more of the pop rock stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is good. Like, do more of this. And then they give me another something. I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. But I've only listened to one album. I know of it from them. Cool name though. That's like one of the greatest names ever.
Yeah, we all know what that's supposed to mean.
Well, I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I know Briar's a big fan of Whitesnake.
Oh yeah, I mean David Coverdale's the lead singer, and he's one of my favorite male singers.
They're a British band that you put in our
they're British band.
In our British invasion, not our British top 10 British bands that are in yours, and I was like,
yeah,
Whitesnake. I just assumed they're American for some reason. I was like,
no, I used to do American as well.
Because Bon Jovi
saw them live,
and so
yeah.
But yeah, all right, Whitesnake. All right, Briar, 5th, right?
All right, next, my 5th pick. All right, next up, I'm gonna go with The Cure next.
Okay, Cure.
Now, The Cure, another one of those bands. They have a very dedicated fan base. If you can find people who love The Cure are really devout. And of course, you have Robert Smith, who is the main guy. He's the guitarist. He's the main singer. He's the main songwriter. He's really the guy in charge. And of course, he has that very, very unique look with that crazy hair and the makeup. He definitely stands out.
Yeah.
But they started in like the late 70s. They were kind of more of like another post-punk sort of band. But then, of course, in the 80s, they decided to try out for a more commercial sound. Of course, this album had some big success. This came out in 1987. This had the big hits, Just Like Heaven. And yeah, just a very very nice pop song, and which is interesting because I know early on they were kind of more in the more gothic rock sound because again he had that look which is very gothic oriented, which of course matched that the music they were doing, which was a lot darker. But then they were able to, again they were able to come out with this very upbeat pop song that did huge business, and they would kind of keep playing around with that. So yeah, I mean then you have Disintegration from '89, which also was pretty big. This had Love Song on it, which many people have covered. I think Adele covered it on one of her albums, I think. So yeah, it's a pretty well liked song of theirs.
Love Song?
Love Song, yes.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, I know it's on one of Adele's album. It was on one of, I think it was 21 it's on. But yeah. That's a Cure song that she's singing.
It is on here. Yep.
Yeah. I knew it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, and then also even in the 90s they were still putting out some hits. Like this one had Friday I'm in Love, which is one of my favorite songs of theirs. But yeah, just a very fascinating band. I mean, it's just all about the soundscape of it. It's kind of like you have to be in the right mood for it almost. But when you're in the right mood, it kind of just has this very interesting effect, which I kind of dig. And, like I said, I mean, the love for the Cure goes deep. I mean, there's an episode of South Park where there's like this giant mecha Barbara Streisand on the loose, and so they enlist the help of Robert Smith to save the day. So there you go. I mean, if somebody can take down a giant mecha Barbara Streisand, then they deserve to be in the Music Hall of Fame. So there you go.
I don't watch a lot of South Park, but I've seen that episode. I was like, "What's he doing here?"
Yeah, I don't really watch it.
I was like, "That's such a random Robert Smith." Cure is an interesting. They're a weird band to me. They're not real commercially I don't know how many people know about the Cure, to be honest. Compared to the other bands we talk about, they had maybe 2 or 3 hits on the radio that I can remember. So they were there, but I first heard there's a song called Mint Car that was on the radio. And I saw them play it on a David Letterman show one time. I was watching David Letterman and the Cure, and he comes out and he's got this weird eyeliner, and he's all this makeup on, his hair was, and he played Mint Car, and he played that in the guitar. If you haven't heard that song, I still really like that song. The guitar is so cool on that song, and I remember going, man, I love this song, and I had to look them up. And none of their other music really sounds like that. Mint Car is really poppy, really catchy poppy. And all the other stuff isn't quite like that, I think. But
yeah, they kind of flip flop between pop.
For a while there, I was like a big Cure. I was like, oh man, I love the Cure. But then I really just love that the one song because I haven't really listened to a lot of their stuff. But definitely, you're right. I think they do have a big fan base though. But yeah, all right, Adam, you're 5th.
It's what 5th and final rock band they're going to be choosing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the band Def Leppard.
Yeah, Def Leppard.
They've had 12 studio albums, 4 from the 80s, so a third of their discographies in the 80s. And of course, their biggest band, their biggest album is Hysteria, which got a lot of their hits. Of course, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Animal, which is probably my favorite song of theirs. Also, the title track and Gods of War was a big song on the album. Another one of my favorite Def Leppard songs is Photograph.
Yeah,
that's what I actually first heard. I first heard it in GTA 5.
Right.
That's the first time I heard the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're one of the bigger 80s rock bands out there. I think they're still touring now.
Yeah, they are. I know they released an album in 2022, I think.
Oh, cool.
Is everybody still together, or is it changed lineups?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's only one major change. I know one, of course, one of the guitarists died, so they had to replace him, but that they've kind of kept the same lineup since.
Because they have the drummer that has one arm.
Yeah, he's still going.
Still going. Wow.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a great 80s. I think
Yeah,
80s,
definitely one of the most essential 80s rock bands.
yeah, it's one of the bands I always think about. They had such an 80s look, the whole
Yeah.
they had.
Mhm.
Along with the others, like the hair band era, like it's so huge to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's maybe sexualized songs, I think. I don't know.
A few of them, yeah.
But that was great when you hear it as a kid. You're like, huh, I wonder what this is about.
Yeah, Sugar. I love Sugar.
I don't think they're talking about food, but okay. um uh what was I say? Def Leppard. Pyromania is my favorite album.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
That's Photograph on it.
Yeah, that's a Photograph.
Hysteria, I wasn't huge on it, except they do have some really good. They have 3 or 4 really good songs on there, if I remember right. Me and Adam actually covered it on Adam's channel one time early on. We collaborated and we both listened to it for the first time and talked about it on the channel.
I don't think I've ever heard the album since, actually.
Yeah,
I've never got back to it.
Yeah, then I heard
two other albums to listen to.
Yeah, then I heard Pyromania. I was like, oh, okay, this is better. Like everybody talks about Hysteria as like the big one. Pyromania, I mean, probably the second biggest one, maybe, but
yeah,
I think I like Pyromania. Yeah, I do like Pyromania a little bit better than Hysteria. Yeah. All right, I think I can now talk about one of my picks and join in on the fun. First person I picked, one of my favorites, to be honest, one of my favorite songwriters of this period and favorite singers of this period, and that is Lionel Richie. He started off with the Commodores back in the 70s, and they did more like funk kind of music, I think, and they had like Brick House and Easy on a Sunday Morning, whatever that song, and had a lot of big hits. And it was a group. I'm not real familiar with Commodores. I just know Lionel Richie was on there, and he wrote a lot of the big stuff on that band. And then I think in 1980, 81, somewhere around there, he came up with his first solo album called Lionel Richie. And it's a really good album. I don't have that one. I need to get that one. If you haven't heard it, like, it's a great, I've only heard 2 of his albums, and it's to me it's real like pop and R&B mix maybe, but definitely very good pop. I like pop, so I really like the pop sound of a lot of his songs there. I'm trying to think. I can't remember exactly what's on there. I think Truly may be on there. That's like a really good song. But I know there's some really good stuff on that album as well. But the big one to me is one that I actually own, if I can get it out here. Is Can't Slow Down, which came out in 1983, the year I was born, my favorite album from my birth year. This was a huge album for him. It won the Grammy for Album of the Year. So absolutely huge. Has some of his biggest stuff. All Night Long is such a great song. Such a fun, laid back kind of, song. Stuck on You is one of the greatest love songs I think he's written. I love that song. And then my favorite song of his is Hello. Hello is so good. Like, that's my favorite Lionel Richie. One of my favorite 80s songs. That hello, is it me you're looking for? And I always think of Family Guy has this where Peter's listening to Hello.
Oh yeah.
And he goes, "Who hurt you? Who hurt you?" Talking to Lonnie about, because it's kind of this, he's this kind of sadness.
Like, I didn't know who I was before I heard this.
I always think that every time I hear it, I think to myself, "Who hurt you?" But anyways, but yeah, it's a fantastic album. Like I said, I don't know a lot about his other stuff except like Dancing on the Ceiling was a big hit for him. Say You, Say Me, and won an Oscar. I think it was in a movie and won an Oscar for best song.
Yeah, I saw that in the movie Rio.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Animation.
The film now.
Yeah. But Say You, Say Me is probably my second favorite song. That's another really great. Endless Love.
Right. With Diana Ross.
With Diana Ross, and that's a really good song as well. But I mean, he's just fantastic singer, and he's a fantastic songwriter. I think, and especially love songs. A lot of his songs are love songs, but man, he can write a good love song. Like I think when I do the review on the album, like I always say, like this is kind of album that you you have a date come over and you turn the lights down and you put this up vinyl on the turntable and you can romance any girl with this album. I think, in my opinion, if you so wanted to, it's that good. And a lot of stuff is like that. It's funny. I just saw like Rolling Stones like 50 great or 100 greatest songwriters, and he wasn't on the list. And I said, Lionel Richie has to be on that list. He's so, I don't know, underrated as a songwriter, I guess. Also, I don't think he's on the 100 greatest singers list either, or whatever that list was, like all the great singers. And I don't think he made that Rolling Stones list either. So Rolling Stones, you really are doing a travesty by not adding Lionel Richie. And I feel like people don't talk about Lionel Richie enough. I think he's absolutely one of my favorite singers and songwriters from this time period, especially. And he's gone on to be a judge on American Idol, and so in fact, he's doing a concert here in Kansas City this summer. I think so. He's still going strong, I think, as a singer anyway. So yeah, that's my pick, Lionel Richie.
Good choice. Yeah.
Producer Matt Lang was a big contributor to Def Leppard music.
Yeah, he was.
Mutt Lang.
Yeah. He would go on to produce Shania Twain.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, did big business for her. Anyway.
All right, Briar's sixth.
All right, for my next pick, we're actually gonna fly to Germany this time.
I said you're going all over the country. You got a couple
I'm going all over the world here.
Let's go to Germany.
Yeah, to Germany to talk about Scorpions.
Okay.
So Scorpions are another, because they technically started in the 70s. Their first album was in 1972, and they were kind of more on that kind of hard rock, heavy metal sound of that period. Of course, they released many albums. By the way, don't ever look up the original cover for this album. Just don't. Okay. Yeah, it's called. I mean, this album cover is not good either, but the original is even worse.
Okay.
But take my word for it. But but regardless of album covers, because it's Germany, I guess in Germany they don't have that many restraints.
No, they don't have many restrictions over there.
No, but
I was there this last summer.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they kept releasing albums in the 70s. This is another good one from theirs. But it was really in the 80s where they really started to get more noticed. You have this album here. I don't have too many Scorpions albums, but a lot of them have some big hits on here. Like, of course, we have Blackout. Of course, this had a big single on here with No One Like You. Just a very catchy, very, very commercial sounding rock metal sound that they're really pushing here. And of course, this one did pretty well. But really, this album here was the big one for them in the 80s. We have Love at First Sting, and this had the big single Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah, this had another kind of anthem sort of thing. Yeah, we rock you like a hurricane.
Okay.
Yeah. This also had the big power ballad Still Loving You, which was another very big, very concert favorite of them. Yeah, it's kind of surprising that they got as big, because again, they're from Germany, and so of course when you hear the lead singer Klaus Meisner, and you can definitely hear his accent through. Like, he definitely has a very unique way of pronouncing English, but I guess it kind of adds to the texture to the sound. And the band themselves is pretty good. You have two guitar players, and again, they're kind of playing off each other really well. Just really good stuff. And this is my last Scorpions album I own, but it's called Savage Amusements. This one didn't do as well as the last one, but there's people say they enjoy this one quite a bit. But of course, their other big single would come in the 90s with Wind of Changes, which that song was big due to, it was kind of around the time the Berlin Wall fell, so they kind of wanted to make a song kind of paying tribute to it. And so that was a huge hit for them. And yeah, I mean, they're still going to this day. Their last album was in 2022, and people say it's their best album in a long time because
Okay.
the 2000s was kind of a rocky period for them. But I haven't heard it, but I know that I've heard their latest album's actually pretty good. So maybe I'll check it out at some point. But yeah, again, pretty good heavy metal band. That's some nice hits. So yeah, that's my next pick, Scorpions.
I don't know any songs by Scorpions.
I said I really don't know much about Scorpions.
Mhm.
I've heard the name "Rocky Like a Hurricane." I know that song. So
I think I know that one.
yeah, people don't really talk about them that much anymore. So that's interesting. They made an album recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from Germany, I didn't know that part either. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So we got Ireland.
Ireland, Germany. If you want to
Germany.
count Peter Gabriel as taking Africa in, so
Yeah.
England, yeah.
England.
And I know you got,
and I know I got one from another country.
Coming up
later.
all right, Adam, you're 6.
Ow. Something just stung me. So I'm gonna go with Sting next. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sting. It's a 15 studio albums.
Mhm.
And I think it's about 3 of them, 3 or 4 in the 80s. Can't remember exactly how many is out in the 80s, but it's had quite a few in the 80s. Of course, he's the front man of the Police, but he's got a pretty good solo career as well. And the Fields of Gold was a big song when that came out. He's also he's got quite a lot of different sort of sound with his music. There's some jazz in there, some world music. He likes to vary with different genres, and I think he's got a very unique style. Yeah.
Yeah, he came out in the 2000s. That was kind of big, and it had this Indian singer on there. I remember that was like, I forget, what was that song?
Oh yeah, Desert Sand.
Yes,
Desert Rose. I think that Desert Rose.
Oh, yeah, Desert Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the radio quite a bit. I remember, and that was kind of a big album for him. I haven't heard from him since that album. I don't know what else he's done.
I've heard his debut album.
Yeah,
which
I've a little bit of his solo stuff.
Was his big album like Blue something? Is there a color in there?
Blue Sea Turtles, Blue Sea Turtles, or something like that.
I heard that was a big one or something for him.
That's the one I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah. I
haven't heard his solo stuff yet. I definitely like to get into it because I've heard the Police, and there's some good stuff there, of course. Sting has such a good voice. I do love his voice. Bass player too.
Yeah.
Yeah, his real name's not Sting, of course. I'm trying to remember what.
Gordon Sumner.
Gordon. Yeah.
Or Gordon Sumter. It's either Sumner or Sumter. I forgot which one.
I think it's Sumner.
Yeah, Sumner.
Yeah.
Call me Sting because he was wearing a
yellow and black shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he looked like a beast or something. You're Sting. And it's funny. You got Edge, you got Sting, you got all these nicknames that stuck with everybody. He also wrote "Funny Friend and Me" from the Emperor's New Groove.
Oh yeah, that's right. But I think it got cut.
Oh yeah, we did.
He got nominated for an Oscar.
It appeared in the credits.
In the credits, okay.
Yeah, it's in the end credits, and he got nominated and played at the Oscars. I remember that. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, I think he did music for Cold Mountain also and got nominated for an Oscar, if I remember right. Anyway, so yeah. Just little tidbits for you, a little trivia.
Little stingers there.
Little stingers.
That joke stung.
See, 10 Summoners songs.
I think I have that album. I have it on CD.
Russians is a good Sting song.
I think I've heard that one.
I think I've heard that one. I think Scott likes that, and he showed it to me once. Anyways, all right. So my second pick on mine, I am going with somebody associated with Madonna in a sense, I guess. one of my favorite songwriters, but not the one you normally think of, I guess, and that is Weird Al Yankovic. And I got his movie, his biopic.
Yeah, his really accurate biopic.
It's the most accurate one out there.
Yeah, there's not a more accurate one out there, in fact. Yeah, right. Great. He's a songwriter that writes for a specific genre or something like that. They keep saying in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, my dream is to be,
I guess, world famous accordion player for a specific style of music.
Yeah. The whole movie, like, my dream is to be, the greatest, singer in a specific style. I forget, but yeah. Actually, a really good musician, in my opinion. Really good accordion player.
Yeah. And the most famous one out there.
I couldn't name you a more famous one. Obviously, he's the king of. I mean, nobody's bigger than them. And really, just pop culture wise, huge. I mean, everybody knows who Weird Al is. He was all over the 80s and 90s and even 2000s. I mean, he's been making music ever since, and it's been a little while since his last album. But I'm always looking forward when he makes another album, because he doesn't really make. He takes quite a long time in between albums, so it's always kind of cool when one comes out. Like,
yeah, I've actually heard that he's actually done with albums.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I was gonna say, he hasn't in a while, so it made me wonder if he was going to do any more. That's too bad.
He's probably struggling with finding songs.
I think the thing is, I think he's heard that he was never really a fan of the whole album making process. Like, he might throw, like, he's open to, like, maybe a single every now and then, but in terms of full albums, probably not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nobody better than him at it. And I've been a big Weird Al fan since I was a kid. The big one for me as a kid was, again, I start my sentence, I can't remember what I was going to say, but it has Amish Paradise on it, and that was a huge song. One of my favorite Weird Al. We did three of us did a Weird Al. That's right, we did a top 10 Weird Al.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think we all had Amish Paradise on there, maybe.
Yeah, it's still gonna be up there.
Gosh, what was the name of that album? I can't remember.
Bad Hair Day?
Hair Day, yes. Yeah, I remember that was the first album I heard from him, and I was like, this is so funny. Like, I just laughed. Me and my friends would listen to it and just laugh our heads off. And then I got some of his albums on cassette when I was a kid. Like, the one I bought, Alapalooza, which I bought, Briar has that one. Yeah, and it has Bohemian Rhapsody on it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And Jurassic Park. What?
Yeah, it really does.
The polka version of yeah, but of course we know, of course we all know that Michael Jackson stole from him and took his Eat It song and made this really huge hit called Beat It.
I still prefer the original. I still prefer Eat It, the original.
But Michael Jackson has ever contributed to Weird Al or given him his, due on it. But no, but that was kind of, he first started off, I think he's from California, if I'm right.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's from California. And he started writing songs. He loved writing these funny parody songs with his accordion, and he put it into the Dr. Demento show, which is a show I used to love. I used to listen to that as a kid. It was all novelty songs. Anyways, I loved novelty songs as a kid, and so that's why I'm a big Weird Al fan. But anyways, and he was on this show a lot, and then he wrote My Bologna was his first big one off of My Sharona from the Knacks or whatever. And Airplay, and people are like, oh, we want more of this. And then he wrote another one, Rides the Bus, from that one band that John Deacon is.
I think they're called Queen. I think.
Yeah, they have that bass player, John Deacon, I think, if I remember right. And I love Rocky Road from I Love Rock and Roll. I mean, so a lot of these huge parody songs at the time. The big one though is Beat It. Eat It is like one of the great Weird Al songs for sure.
Mhm.
I think that really put him on the map, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson was the hugest star at the time, and to do that song, and he did a lot of food songs. He's mostly known for his food songs. It's funny early on, but yeah, that kind of got him there. And yeah, he just had one hit album after another as far as that's concerned. You know, like I said, Bad Hair Day was great. Amish Paradise was a huge, huge hit for him off of Gangster's Paradise, which was a huge song. Love that song. Also, the first CD I got was Running with Scissors, which was another big one, which does have the Anakin. Whoops. Yeah. How much Paradise is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has
He's got a couple of Star Wars related songs.
American Pie parody, but it's about Anakin.
And Yoda.
And
Yoda.
Phantom Menace. What's that called?
The Saga Begins.
Saga Begins, yeah.
That's the one.
That's great. Yeah, Yoda was a great one off of Lola. It's another great one. So yeah, it's just one huge hit after hit. If you listen to that stuff, this is obviously not like mainstream. This is kind of more obscure, maybe, but I mean, it still had a huge fan base. And he did like Poodle Hat was pretty good as well. And my favorite is White and Nerdy. I think it's like the anthem of all of us who are white and nerdy. So I feel like I take that song as like
I can relate to that.
I can relate to the song. So I'm like, yes, this is our song. White and Nerdy reunites on this song. You know, it's our theme song. It's so perfect. Anyways, but yeah, the last one was I'm trying to think of what it was called.
Mandatory Fun or something.
Mandatory Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the last one, and it was still pretty good. I think I mean, he's done like Miley Cyrus. He did a Taylor Swift. I mean, really good stuff. So many great, funny songs. You can spend forever talking about it. But I did see him live once back in the 2010 or so. Well, no, I think it was 2008, 2009. I saw him live, and it was one of the best concerts. It was so fun. He is obviously funny in person. Does a lot of costume changes, and of course, Bad was another big song of his from Michael Jackson. Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, there's just so many. Anyways, I know I'm going on long about him, but I am a big fan of Weird Al. I think he belongs in here, even though he's very, he rips off. I mean, I know you can say he rips off other, but what he does is brilliant. I mean, he's a brilliant writer, in my opinion. And
he always gets permission first.
Yes, and he's always about getting permission. And he writes original stuff too that is really funny. His original stuff is also really good, along with the parody songs. Anyway, so that's my second pick is Weird Al Yankovic.
Nice.
All right, Brian. 7.
All right, we're back to England here. So when we did the 70s Hall of Fame, I nominated a particular band, and that band was Black Sabbath. Well, we're going to keep this train going a little bit because we're going to talk about, of course, Ozzy Osbourne. Okay, so goes by many names. Of course, Prince of Darkness, Godfather of Metal, whatever you want to call him. Ozzy Osbourne has definitely has cemented his status in pop culture. Again, he got started in Black Sabbath in the 70s. That's where he really took notice. But then, of course, once you get to the late 70s, then things go awry. Drugs become a big thing, and
you don't say.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, after that, they decided, yeah, okay, Ozzy, you're out of here. Or he quit. I don't know which one's which, but I don't know which one's correct. But regardless, Ozzy left Black Sabbath, and so for a couple of years, he was kind of, didn't know what he was going to do, but eventually he was given the encouragement to go solo. And of course, by the time we get to this album, his debut, Blizzard of Oz, came out. Yeah, it came out. Let me just see when it came out. It came out in 1980, so right at the turn of the new decade. But yeah, of course, right off the bat, pretty successful. I mean, this had the big hit "Crazy Train" on it, which it's funny. It's funny that people confuse it to a Black Sabbath song sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great riff, and of course, his band at the time was pretty great. Of course, you have Randy Rhoads on guitar. Yeah, I mean, he was like very young, and man, his guitar playing was off the charts by then. But yeah, of course, this album had other great songs like "I Don't Know," had a good ballad in here, "Goodbye to Romance," another pretty well-known song, "Mr. Crowley," which had another great moment for Randy Rhoads to show off his guitar skills. But yeah, album did great business. And then, of course, by 1981, they released the follow-up with "Diary of a Madman," which very fitting name because, yep, Ozzy is not a normal person. Mainly, well, drugs is a big thing.
Can't understand a word. I know that much.
Gotta love that. Yeah, that Birmingham accent really helps him. But of course, this also did pretty good. But of course, what's notable, this is the last album with Randy Rhoads before he tragically died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
But yeah, it still did pretty well. This had big hits like "Over the Mountain," "Fly High Again," and the title track's pretty highly regarded. But yeah, so even besides that, of course, Ozzy would go on, of course, but you know, throughout the 80s, he was still going through a lot of personal stuff. Drugs was still a big thing. I know his like antics were like biting the head off a bat was one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting thing. Pissing on the Alamo, snorting ants. You name it, he's probably done it.
Yeah.
And of course, he can't remember any of it. It's funny because I know I don't own it, but I know his autobiography literally starts with I'm Ozzy Osbourne or something like that, and this is what I remember.
It's like the
blank,
like the shortest autobiography ever.
Yeah, but you know, there's that. But yeah, it's just the wild, crazy things he's done. But of course, throughout this, even besides that, he still releases albums. You have "Bark at the Moon," which was still pretty well known. And even in the 90s, he was still pretty big. Once you get to this album, of course, this is "No More Tears," which also was pretty successful. This had the big power ballad "Mama, I'm Coming Home."
I like that song.
Yeah, that's a good one. And so yeah, and he's still been busy. He's still been releasing albums. He's still alive too. Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, I have this album. Yeah, this came out in 2020, and so yep. And his last album was 2022. So yeah,
is this supposed to be his final album for sure? Or?
I have no idea at this point. I know he said he's probably gonna be done with touring soon, because he's going through a lot of health issues at the moment.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know I heard he has Parkinson's now. So that's also contributing.
Yeah.
And also contributing to his voice as well. But you know, and of course, even besides the music, again, another thing that made him a pop culture figure, of course, he's a reality star.
I think a lot of people come from reality shows.
Yeah, the Osbournes was a big show at the time, and he did that for a number of years. I actually watched it. He actually was in another show. He did it with his son. It was called Jack and Ozzy's Road Detour, I think, and it was just them kind of going to like these different places around the world. It was fascinating. It was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. But yeah, you know, Ozzy, again, he's one of the big figures in heavy metal, and yeah, he definitely needs to be, you know, definitely gets acknowledged. I know he's been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. So we'll see if he actually gets in. This will be his second time. If he does, it'll be his second time in, because the first time was in Black Sabbath. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I know I don't know if it's called the Osbournes. Yeah, that was a big reality.
It was. It was like the first like big celebrity reality TV show.
It's like the first big one, because it was like, okay, this guy's, you know, crazy, but it's like, oh, he has like this nice family, and his daughter.
It started because they were on MTV Cribs originally.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
His two kids though have gone on to do stuff. Like I see them do all the time. Like they're involved. you know, the entertainment business in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And Sharon too. She was on like The View or something.
Yeah, she was on The View. She was on, I think, X Factor. I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're a pretty famous family.
Oh
It
yeah.
was, yeah.
That's what the crazy part is. Like you think Ozzy Osbourne's just this crazy rock and roller, and then you see he's got this family,
And he's a grandfather too.
and
Yeah, I suppose.
Sharon, and then he was like, wow, he's terrible when he talked. The dog pooped again on the floor, or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, this. I don't know what's better, the reality show or his music. Someone's like, Ozzy Osbourne, the reality TV show star? You're like, no, the rock and roller.
It's kind of
darkness. Donald Trump, the president? No, the reality star, Donald Trump. I think I have the link in the album exchange live chat.
I think you sent it to me I think you just sent it to me and Adam.
I sent you, and then I sent it so Adam can get on.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think you did.
Hey.
We can do the album exchange now.
I didn't want to crash the party.
We're reviewing Defiance Part 1.
Yeah,
quickly get your mom to change the record for people notice.
Yeah, this is my first pick was Jay. I came on to you guys could talk about your picks. I'll talk about my bonus picks though after you guys are done. I just wanted to come on and watch you guys show your picks and me add to whoever I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so it's back to me. Yeah.
No, it's Adam. It's Adam next.
Oh no, you just went. Okay, Adam, it's your turn. Thank you.
So it is me, right?
Yeah, it is you, Adam.
Well, I'm going to go with the solo singer that I don't think any of you are familiar with.
No.
That's the singer Black.
Black, yeah, I never heard of him.
He's had 7 studio albums and 2 for the 80s. But I've only heard 1 album of his, and that's called Wonderful Life. It's got a title track on it, which is probably his biggest song. There's quite a lot of other really good songs on it. It's one of the better albums I've heard of the 80s. I think it's a very underrated album. But yeah, I love the album that much that I want it to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just for the album alone.
Oh wow!
Really. Yeah.
All right. I don't have anything to add to this one.
I've got to discover more of his music. That's all I know is that album.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a singer.
Yeah.
It's not a band. It's just an individual singer named Black.
But he has got a band with him though.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard that artist either called Black. Like when Adam put that down, I'm like, what the heck? Who the heck is Black? Like Jack Black?
Jack Black.
Black Sabbath? Like I was like
sorry to inform you, Adam, but Brian already picked Black Sabbath.
Or did Black Sabbath. Anyways. Is it a rock singer or a pop singer?
I'd say rock pop, really.
Rock pop? Okay, cool.
A bit both.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'll go to my pick. And we can get Nick involved maybe in the next round, maybe.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like once you get to the last 2 picks, I'll give my first bonus pick. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, where are we on our picks now? I've got 3 picks left. Okay.
Yeah, I got 3 picks too.
You got 3 left.
So we'll go one more round. Maybe.
Yeah. I think that sounds good.
Something like that. All right. For my next pick, I think to me, I don't know why. This is like one of the most 80s bands sounding to me, and that is Huey Lewis and the News.
That's a good band.
And with Huey Lewis there. They have such, to me, one of the best rock pop sounds of this period. You guys have mentioned a lot of more of the heavier rock stuff. This is definitely more of the lighter poppier stuff, I would say, of the 80s period. And I got this greatest hits one that was given to me by Rob from Rob Secure Music. But I think my favorite is Sports. I think it was my favorite album of theirs, if I remember right. I don't think they have that many albums either, but I remember Sports was pretty big. I think they have one called Four.
Mm-hmm.
This Is It. Is that one? I can't remember. Anyways, I didn't write them down, but a lot of big stuff in the 80s. They were huge. They had a lot of hit songs. I mean, The Heart of Rock and Roll, Heart and Soul, Do You Believe in Love? Great song. The Power of Love, which is off of this movie, Back to the Future, which I got the soundtrack to.
Yep. He also cameoed in it.
Yeah. You're just too loud. Yeah. Great movie, great soundtrack. Power of Love was also nominated for an Oscar, which was cool to see that. If This Is It, probably my favorite of their songs. I love that song. Again, they're just fun pop songs. He really just wrote these just catchy pop songs. And I love a lot of them have like really good like sax solos in them. I love the saxophone solos that they put in them. Also, his music videos are pretty fun too. And I think Huey Lewis has a great voice. He's like got one of my favorite voices from the 80s period. But Working for a Living, I Want a New Drug, are some of the big ones I can recognize off of here. But yeah, they had tons and tons of hits of the 80s. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like, what's the word there? Because when I mention them sometimes, people are like, what, Huey Lewis and the News? I'm like, yeah, they're great. Like, I feel like I get chastised for mentioning them, that there's like some negativity towards them. Maybe that's just me, but I've heard some people be negative towards them. I'm like, I don't get it. I think they're just a really fun pop rock band, and they were huge in the 80s, had tons and tons of hits. So I think to me, they stood the test of time, in my opinion anyways. And I don't know much about what they're doing now. It's probably been a while since they've had any albums out, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard they've stopped touring because I think Huey's losing his hearing.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think I've seen him in interviews. Yeah, his hearing. And Huey, I don't know if he's done some solo work either, but I remember he was in a movie and he did a duet with Gwyneth Paltrow of a cover song, Cruising. I think is the name of the song. It's a really good duet that came out like in the 2000s. I really like anyways, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's my pick. Third pick is Huey Lewis and the News.
That sucks because that the usage that they use in future Back to the Future was awesome. It's the power of love.
Power of Love and
Fantastic Movie Trilogy. Back in Time, yeah.
Back in Time is really good too. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the music, but maybe I should check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, some good stuff.
All right. I think we're good. Briar.
Back to me.
What are you doing now, Briar?
Well, we're going back to America. We're back home. Back to my neck of the woods because this band started in Los Angeles.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I know, Jason, you kind of briefly mentioned that we're picking a lot of more of the harder stuff. Well, my next pick is
stuff. You picked the harder stuff.
Yeah, this is probably going to be the hardest one of all. But that band, of course, is Metallica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Metallica. So, like I said, they formed in Los Angeles, California. Of course, the main two. I mean, there's really no main person, but of course, the most notable figures are James Hetfield on rhythm guitar and vocals, Lars Ulrich on drums, and then you have Kirk Hammett on guitar, and then of course you have their founding bass. Well, not the founding member, but he was one of the founding members. You have their bass player Cliff Burton. So they're part of the thrash metal scene where it's heavy metal, but it's a lot faster, a bit more harsher. But yeah, that's basically it. More aggressive. And so this is their debut album, came out in 1983. And yeah, very raw sounding. They're still a brand new band, so the production's still rough around the edges. But of course, you have great heavy guitar riffs, very fast, and the bass playing on here is top notch. I mean, Cliff Burton is considered one of the greats in metal bass playing, and he's playing with his fingers because normally with metal music, people are playing with the picks because it's a lot fast. It's very fast, so a pick's gonna help get quicker. But Cliff, he's using all fingers, and of course, he popularized the use of distortion in bass playing. It gives them much more darker, menacing sound, which is great. So yeah, great, very strong debut. And then we get to my personal favorite. We have Ride the Lightning. This is them really branching out a little bit more. Now they're bringing more, like the first song, Fight Fire with Fire, starts with an acoustic guitar to kind of lure you in, kind of setting the mood before it just eases your way back into the heaviness. And yeah, again, great songs, great heavy album, like title track, For Whom the Bell Tolls, which again, that starts with a bass intro, which again, really shows off Cliff's remarkable bass playing. And they have the power ballad, well, kind of a power ballad almost, with Fade to Black, and just a great guitar solo at the very end. It's very emotional. That's another personal song for me. But yeah, very good stuff. But then you get to probably the most well-known, the most celebrated album, and that of course is Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
Of course, recently Master of Puppets was used in Stranger Things, so it got a little resurgence there. But yeah, when people talk about what's the most well-known metal albums, this is usually one of them. Of course, it has the title track, which is very famous. But yeah, it's still some good stuff. Has the iconic instrumental Orion, which is Cliff Burton's like opus, shall we say, because I know he mainly composed that one. But yeah, it's just another very good album. This is actually the first Metallica album I ever listened to, because I had a coworker who recommended to me, and I had never heard heavy metal before, and so I played it, and I was like, oh my god, this is way too much for me. So I actually didn't like it at first. It actually took me a bit to warm up to the sound, and now I love it now, so there you go. But of course, this album's kind of an end of an era, because this is the last album with Cliff Burton, because they were touring in Europe, I think, and they were in their bus, and the bus crashed, and Cliff was the only one who didn't make it. So yeah, that was the end of Cliff Burton's tenure with the band. But then they were able to regroup. They got a new bass player, Jason Newsted, and they released Injustice and For All, which I do have, but it's in with all my slim cases, and I'm too lazy to shift through them. But I do have it. Yes, got the cassettes out.
Cool.
Now that's 80s.
I couldn't find the cassettes. I'm like, where's my Masters of Puppet? Where's my? Yeah, this is that should just show how much I love me some Metallica.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah. But anyway, so Jason Newsted is now in the band. Injustice for All, another pretty strong album. Of course, I want to like it more, but it kind of has they kind of did Jason Newsted dirty on that album, because they really turned down his bass to the point where you really can't hear it. Yeah, that's one way to welcome a new bass player. I always say that album is every bass player's worst nightmare. Yeah. But still, there's some good songs. Like One was the big song.
Good.
Yeah, that was a very good one. Good guitar riff in the middle section. But then when you get to the 90s, they would hit their big commercial peak with the Black Album, which, they were accused of being a sellout, but I don't care. I really don't care. I still think the songs are fine, because it has Enter Sandman, which was a huge hit. And then you have their big ballad. Let me see. Nothing Else Matters.
Oh yeah.
That was a great ballad. I also love The Forgiven. I think that's another pretty good song on here. But
Page by this point, or Turn the Page?
That was a later album. That was on a covers album. They did it.
I remember,
which I don't have.
That was a pretty good cover.
Yeah, they also did Stone Cold Crazy by Queen.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I think they won a Grammy for that, I think. I forget. I don't think so. I don't remember, but I know they won a Grammy for something around that time.
At some point, or rock song.
Yeah.
I remember they lost to Jethro Tull, and they got.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the whole thing.
Large upset about it, and the next time the next year they won.
Even Jethro Tull were like, wait, how do we win that?
We win it. And Lars is like, well, I'm glad Jethro Tull didn't put an album out.
Yeah.
Kind of bitter about it.
Yeah, a little bit. But anyhow, so yeah, there was a whole period where after this, Metallica was kind of like fumbling around a little bit. I know they were experimenting a bit. Some failed miserably. Like there was an album called Saint Anger.
Oh
which is-
no! Literally, the drums sound like you take a metal garbage can and you take like a wooden spoon, and you're just banging on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recommend that album. But anyhow, eventually Jason Newsted would leave because of fighting with the rest of the band. But now they have their current bass player Robert Trujillo, who is actually on that Ian Hunter album that Adam wanted to review. Yeah. So there you go. A little Metallica connection.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so again, Metallica, they're one of the big metal bands ever. They still have a very big fan base. And again, and even today, their latest album that came out in 2023 just won a Grammy for best metal album. So even today, they're still very highly remembered. And so yeah, gotta put them in here.
Yeah, the Load and Reload. Let's just say the album covers had a couple of bodily fluids involved.
I only have Load. I don't have Reload yet.
I want to just share my brief thoughts on Metallica too. Metallica is just an all-time great metal band. When I first heard, I never heard of it. I mean, I've heard the name, but in high school, like people are like, there were a couple kids in my grade that were like, the Beatles are trash, Metallica's way better. And I'm like, I have to listen to this band if you're going to tell me that. And I listen to Metallica, of course. Me personally, I think the Beatles are better than Metallica. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I think those first 4 albums that Metallica made is just magic. Kill 'Em All. Right? I mean, my 2 favorite albums I have on its original format. So that's just proof how much I love those albums. For Whom the Bell Bells Toll, that's my favorite Sabbath Metallica song. It's just a small. Yeah, I know. I get the whole bass thing going in Justice for All, but I still really enjoy it though, despite that.
Yeah, it's still good.
If you ever talk to any Metallica fans, though, you don't call them Metallica, you call them Metallica. Metallica.
And they have one of the coolest logos too, as well.
I agree. That's probably one of my favorite logos behind the Who.
Like a skull or something, or what?
That.
Oh, that.
How they write it.
How they write the name. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love Metallica. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're probably the most famous, to me, the most well-known heavy metal maybe band. I guess whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I knew them growing up, and I wasn't even a fan of heavy metal, but they were on the radio. They had a lot of radio hits that I can remember, like the ones you mentioned. Yeah.
I wouldn't say they were the most popular in the first 4 albums. That Black album really cemented them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's selling out. I hate that term, selling out. I've always hated that. I'd say it was them more playing it safe than selling out, which doesn't mean that they're selling out. It just means they're playing it a little more safe, which I think the music still played really well. So you ain't gonna hear me playing.
They had the song that was like, "Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire." And I was like, that was like, that's a pretty cool song. They had a documentary that came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
they were making Saint Anger at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw it in college.
You did?
Yeah. If anyone has a metal trash can and you have like a wooden spoon and you bang on that, you're basically playing the drums on Saint Anger. I'm not even joking. Brian could attest to that.
Yeah.
In the documentary, it's like they're going through therapy or something. It was weird.
Yeah.
And then James Hetfield looks like you're some random dad. Doesn't look that much of a metal singer anymore.
I know. Yeah, that's true. He was a big guy too. He was kind of.
Oh, he is tall.
Yeah. I mean,
it's funny because when they started, like he was kind of like he was people. I've seen people say like when he was young, he was like a baby, but now he towers over everybody in the band.
Cliff Burton, I'd say, is like one of the all-time best bass players.
I think.
That John Entwistle from the Who.
Well, Lars, I think, is a really good drummer.
Yeah, I think people say he's a terrible drummer. Like maybe live he's hit or miss, but in the studio he sounds great.
No, I thought he was a really good drummer.
I agree.
Maybe underrated drummer. I don't know. All right. Now enough of the Metallica fan club. Let's go to Adam.
I'm going to go with some more easy listening music now. I'm going to go with the band America.
All right. America. Europe, now America. You're hitting the
Pretty ironic, really.
They've had 23 studio albums, 6 from the 80s. They've even got a soundtrack album as well, but I'm not sure what the soundtrack is.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't you introduce
I
us
know
on?
they did the soundtrack to The Last Unicorn.
Yeah, Last Unicorn.
Which is
That's
an
it.
animated
Right,
film.
they did that.
I remember he talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've only heard their first 5 albums. I've not heard any of their 80s albums. But from what I've heard in the 70s, I'm sure the 80s stuff is really good. I'm trying to think what my favorite America song is. It's probably Lonely People. That's always be one of my favorites.
That's great.
Yeah. Sandman's a good one.
Horse with No Name is the big one.
I Need You. That's another good one.
Ventura Highway.
Yeah, Ventura Highway, great one.
Horse with No Name.
Yeah, they have some really good stuff. Kind of an underrated band. I know Rich Strickler's a big fan, and
yeah,
I think he got you into it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a band I want to hear more of because I love some of their stuff. I think I've heard the first album actually. Yeah, I did listen to the first album. That was pretty good.
And I know George Martin was involved with them for a bit.
Yeah, he produced a few of their albums.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and I love the name America. I mean, what's better than that? I was kidding. Is there?
But not all the members are American though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Man, we're hitting all the continents, all the countries in this one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The 80s was a very diverse decade.
Very, very diverse decade. Yeah, no, 60s we talk about England almost all the time. But
oh yeah, England's like the big decade for the 60s and
60s like big in England. We all talk about England, but anyways. All right, so do you want me to go back to me and then we'll go Briar, Adam, then Nick, and then we'll do
that sounds good.
Okay.
Keep the same order basically.
Yeah.
I think I might go up after the next round.
Okay, so you have 2 more you can just do the next round.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hit your 2 then on your next one. All right, my next one is I think one of the greatest singers of all time, and that is Whitney Houston. I mean, many consider on any list. I think she was second on the Rolling Stones singing list. I think it was like Aretha Franklin #1 and then Houston 2. Yeah, it's her first album. I think was I forget now. I don't have it in front of me. I know one of the albums called Whitney, I think, and another one's called Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
And I've heard both of those. I think they're both really good albums. Like I was kind of like I didn't really grow up listening to Whitney Houston, but she was on the radio and she was talked about a lot, and she was huge. And then in the 90s, she was huge from what I can remember. But started off in the 80s, and man, she has such a great voice. I mean, just amazing voice, great pop R&B sound. Greatest Love, I think his name, maybe that's the name of the song. That's really great. Want to Dance with Somebody was a really good pop song for her. And she has some other ones I don't remember on top of my mind from the 80s.
What hits she had?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 or 4 hits off each album from what I remember. Overall, 2 really good albums. And then the big one for me is the Bodyguard soundtrack, which she starred in the movie alongside Kevin Costner. And I remember that movie coming out. I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw it like on TV or something after it came out, because that was a pretty big movie from I remember. And of course, the biggest song of the 90s, in my opinion, was I Will Always Love You, which was written by, I think, Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, she had a big hit with it, but I never heard her. I never heard her. I always heard Whitney Houston. And I love that version of the song. It's one of my favorite 90s songs. the way she belted out at the end, when I will always, I mean, just amazing. That's really like, holy cow, she can sing. But that album was huge, and it also won the Grammy for Album of the Year, believe it or not, the soundtrack, which I haven't heard the whole soundtrack. I just know that song. But yeah, that was kind of the peak period. I say she sang the national anthem, which was huge. I remember that, and she had kind of a good style. She had a really nice style to her. I think her costumes or her outfits are pretty well known. She would do some other stuff, but I don't think anything got as big as like those two albums and Bodyguard. And I haven't heard her other stuff, but then unfortunately she got involved with drugs, and her voice, I think, deteriorated maybe a little bit, or she wasn't as good, straining maybe or something. And then she unfortunately died in a bathtub after doing drugs or something. So it's just, I saw her or biopic, which I thought was actually pretty good.
I've still not seen it yet.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but I was like, I actually kind of liked it. And I feel so bad for Whitney Houston. Like, man, if she didn't get involved in drugs, like, what more great stuff could we gotten from her? I feel like we're missing out on some great Whitney Houston music. So it's kind of a sad end to her, but I still think she should be remembered as one of the great singers, I think, of the
Definitely
80s period, in my opinion. So I think that's why I had to put her on here. Whitney Houston belongs on Music Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So we go to Briar.
Okay. I'm going back to England again. Okay. This is another one of my heavy choices and my last heavy choice. Okay. Next up, Iron Maiden. Okay. Iron Maiden. Another one of the big metal bands pretty much ever. I mean, yeah, because they started in England. They formed in 1975, founded by their bass player, Steve Harris, who is kind of the main guy. He's the guy who formed the band. He writes a lot of the songs. The bass player, no less. But yeah, it was pretty remarkable. But yeah, they went through many lineup changes until they finally settled on the lineup for the debut, which came out in 1980. And right off the bat, it has their great marketing because it has their mascot. His name's Eddie, and he's been on every album cover since then.
And
of course, Eddie.
Big one, don't they, on stage or something?
Yeah, they do. Like this giant, like there's a guy on stilts, and he's just walking around the stage. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Early on, Eddie was kind of like the face, kind of the face of the band. Kind of came about because they knew they wanted a mascot, and originally, I think they just called it the Head, but because of their British accents, it sounded like Ed, and so they just went with Eddie the Head. There you go. So yeah, that's where it came. Of course, what's interesting about the first two albums, this album and the next album, Killers, is that, of course, they had their original lead singer. His name was Paul Di'Anno, and he was kind of a more punk sort of singer. Wasn't really a rock guy. He's kind of more like, had a much punkish sound to it, but it worked for their sound. And early on, they had great guitar riffs, and the bass playing on them are really top notch, very upfront. But it wasn't until their 1982 release, The Number of the Beast, where that's when they really started to take notice, because this was the first album with their lead singer, Bruce Dickinson, who is a very different singer to Paul. He has a very more almost operatic voice, very theatrical. People called him the human air raid siren, was how he holds his notes. Sounds like an air raid siren, but it works. It's powerful, it's big, and it worked for what the band wanted to do.
That's a compliment?
Yeah, it's a compliment.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, this album did get controversy because, again, it's called Number of the Beast, and so this was a victim of people taking the records and burning them. But the band didn't mind. They thought, hey, that's good publicity right there, and so they went with it.
It's funny. So, yeah, as long as it's behind the album, who cares?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, and this had some pretty remarkable songs like the title track, Run to the Hills, Hallowed Be Thy Name, will become big life staples for them. And so, yeah, that was kind of when they really hit big. And from then on, they would release more classic albums of the metal genre like Peace of Mind. Then you have Power Slave with an Egyptian. And their album covers are always pretty cool. I mean, this one has a Egyptian sort of theme to it. You have Eddie as a pharaoh, which is pretty cool.
I've always liked the Seventh Son.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get to that. But yeah, you have Somewhere in Time, and then like Adam just said earlier, it's Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, which was actually one of my favorites. I definitely like the blue color to it.
Has it got kind of play with madness on that one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, good thing you brought that up because the music video actually had Graham Chapman of Monty Python in the video. It's actually one of the last things he did before he died. It's kind of sad. But anyhow, yeah, they're still going. Their live shows are considered legendary. Especially again, Bruce Dickinson just running about the stage and still be able to keep up the voice. Like he doesn't sound tired at all. And another thing cool about Bruce Dickinson is that he actually is a licensed pilot and he actually pilots their tour plane. So there you go. So that's cool there. And yeah, and they're still going. And their last album right here, Sunjutsu, which is a more samurai theme. But yeah, this album came out 2022, I think.
Oh wow.
And yeah, still, yep. And people really enjoyed this album for the most part. Of course, they kind of changed their sound a bit by this point. They're kind of more on a more progressive rock, progressive metal sound, so the songs are a lot longer. But they're kind of mixed to some people, but I don't mind them personally. But yeah, just wanted to throw them in there because, like I said, when it comes to heavy metal, they're like one of the gold standards. So there you go.
Well, I've actually seen one of the members of Iron Maiden when I went to the record store. And Bruce Dickinson was there.
Wow, cool.
But I didn't get to talk to him because I didn't want to wait half an hour in line. But I did see him though. He was signing records and t-shirts.
I remember there was this Saturday Night Live skit, the cowbell skit.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah.
Christopher Walken,
producer Bruce Dickinson.
Playing producer Bruce Dickinson. Is that the same or is that a different name?
I don't think so because they look nothing alike.
Okay. I was just weird when he said that. That's why I think about is
I feel like that was just a random name they chose.
Hey, I'm Bruce Dickinson. Like
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe in the far future, me and Brian might cover them on my channel.
Okay. All right, Adam. So you want to give your last two picks of the 80s?
Yeah.
Mm.
Then I'll probably go if that's okay.
Yeah. That's fine.
So my next pick, I'm going to go with a couple of singer-songwriters. So my next one is Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah.
He's had 20 studio albums, 4 from the 80s. I'm not familiar with anything that he did for the 80s.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of excellent stuff in the 70s. Yeah, Canadian singer-songwriter. His biggest song is probably If You Could Read My Mind. That's my favorite song of his.
Yeah.
I love Canadian Railroad Trilogy as well. It's not been that long ago since he passed away.
Yeah.
Even his last album was a really, really good one. It was just him and the acoustic guitar.
That's cool. Yeah, I know the
quite prolific singer-songwriter.
The Edmund Fitzgerald, was it?
The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Big one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know Sam John's big on him. He talks about him.
Yeah. My 10th and final pick for the 80s is Jimmy Buffett.
Who also passed away now.
Yeah. But he's had 32 studio albums, 8 from the 80s. I'm not too familiar with his music. I've only heard his latest album, which I thought was really good. He definitely ended his career on a high. But yeah, he's had loads of studio albums.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets spoken about enough. So I never really knew him until recently. I didn't know his music until recently. But Margaritaville is probably his biggest song.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Burger in Paradise? Or Cheeseburger in Paradise, right?
Oh, yeah, I think I know that one as well, yeah.
Big one. I don't know it, but I've heard people talk about it.
But are we going to go with our bonus choices as well? I've got one bonus choice for the 80s.
Oh, you want to do bonus? I was going to say, yeah, you have bonus choices also.
And I'm going to go with the Smiths. They've had 4 studio albums and all of them released in the 80s. They're actually one of my dad's favourite bands.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think they're a really good band. And I've seen a tribute on the Smiths as well. But yeah, I thought I had to give them a mention. Of course, the Queen is Dead album. It's a really big album of theirs.
Yeah.
One of the biggest albums of the 80s.
What was their big songs? I don't know the Smiths, really.
I think Big Mouth Strikes Again is quite a big one. And there is Light That Never Goes Out. It's on there as well.
People talk about the Smiths all the time, and I just know nothing about them. Like, I don't know. They weren't a big deal to me.
Yeah, I feel like they were bigger in the UK than here in America.
Okay. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, they're all my choices for the 80s.
All right.
All right,
But,
cool.
but before I go, what are your choices? So I don't miss out.
The rest of our choices?
Yeah.
What want me to go?
You just want to name you our choices? What?
Yeah, because I might go now if that's okay, guys.
Well, I have hair left on my 80s.
Yeah, and I have my wild card, Maria Takeyoshi.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to give my 2 bonus picks because I'm not going to be in, I wasn't involved in the 80s or the 90s.
Nope.
I don't know many artists.
Hey. I know, you're like the youngest one in the group.
Yeah.
Want me to give my first bonus pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'll probably get going.
Okay, my first bonus pick is going to be Taylor Swift. Yes. So this is past the 90s.
She was born in 1989, so it works.
Yes. I'm talking about Taylor Swift. Right now, whichever Swiftie, if there's any Swifties in the chat right now, they're probably thrilled. I think she started out as a country singer, and then she slowly became a pop singer. Her debut album, Taylor Swift, 2006. It's a fine album. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's good. Of course, Fearless. It's an okay album. Same with Speak Now. Her first 3 albums are good. But Red is awesome. I love Red. That's an awesome album. I love every song on that album. It's really good. State of Grace. Red, my favorite Taylor Swift song. It's great. I Knew You Were Trouble is iconic song for her. 22, another really big song. There's just so much good songs on here. Stay, Stay, Stay. We Are Never Getting Back Together. That song's awesome. Just so much good songs on here. If there's a Taylor Swift album that I recommend any non-Taylor Swift fan check out, it's definitely Red. It's an awesome album. 1989 is an okay album. Half the songs I'm not as into. Half the songs I really like. I really like Welcome to New York. Fitting, I have a New York Ranger jersey. Blank Space is pretty good. Out of the Woods is great. I Wish You Would. How Could You Get the Girl? Clean. Great songs. I mean, there are a lot of big hits on here. Like I said, Blank Space is huge.
Yeah.
Style's pretty big. Shake It Off. Everyone's that song. Bad Blood. Wildest Dreams. So much big hits on here. If there's an album that most people would go to, it's probably this one because of how much hits there's on it.
Yeah. Grammy album too.
Reputation sucks. I don't like that album. Has one of her big hits on it. Look What You Made Me Do. I don't like that song at all. I never cared for this album. Definitely her worst album. Then there's an album called Lover where she tries to. I don't want to say too much, but she's trying to be woke in this album, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work that well for me. I do like Paper Rings. That's a good song, but this album doesn't really work for me. It's probably my second least favorite from her. Folklore is great. I love Folklore. Evermore's a good album. And her previous album, Midnights, was pretty good.
Okay.
In 26 Days, she's her next album, The Tortured Poets Depart. That's
Yeah.
the next album coming out.
Yep.
Probably listen to that one when it releases.
Fan, by the way.
Yeah, I'm definitely adding that. Whatever songs I like, I'll add to my my library. Of course, you can't go without talking about the Taylor versions. Can't talk about that. Cannot not talk about that. Everyone knows that. Fearless, Red, Midnight, not Midnight's Speak Now, and 1989. So basically, her early albums were. So from her first album, The Reputation, it's not owned by her anymore, and she's trying to claim ownership. So she's re-recording all these songs. I'd say Red did an okay job, but the other ones I'm not a fan of. Like, unless you're a extremist and you want to not listen to the stolen versions of these songs, there's no point in listening to the Taylor versions. But yeah, that's my first bonus pick, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, picking a really recent one, the most recent one.
Yeah, he has.
And I never thought Nick would put Taylor Swift on the list, but here we go.
It's the toxic fan community was kind of turning me off from listening to her music, but you're listening to her. Briar's gonna listen to her.
Yeah, Jacob
likes her a lot. I'm like, why not? I mean, you kind of said it. You were hoping that the Chiefs would win, and you're like, if she wins, I'll listen to her music. And I'm like, you know what? Since Jason is, I'm listening to them as well because I was really hoping the Chiefs would win.
If it wasn't for the Chiefs, I probably wouldn't listen to her. But because I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm like, I gotta listen to her now. Yeah, I have to. Anyways, yeah.
But I think I might go now, guys.
All
How are
right.
they going, Adam?
Enjoy doing the Hall of Fame. Without me, I'll probably be watching in the chat.
Okay.
But
All right.
probably gonna get ready for bed now, to be honest.
Yeah,
Getting late for me.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Till next time, guys.
All right,
How are we
take
going,
care.
Adam?
See ya.
See ya.
Okay.
All right. So I got one pick left in the 80s. Briar, you got one. I just didn't think about this. Do you want to do one bonus pick as well, Briar, on this one, and me do one?
I'll save it for the 90s. I'll save it for the 90s because I have one that's from the 70s technically, and I have one from the 90s. So I'll save it for the 90s.
You say the picks for the 90s? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I could do either one, I guess. Maybe I'll do one bonus pick on this one and then one on the 90s. If that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Because we did the 80s and we did the 60s, 70s, 80s. We're going to do a 90s Music Hall of Fame. And then I had everybody kind of in the group pick two bonus ones out of any decade as an idea of like trying to catch the ones that we might have missed that we didn't have enough time to get to. And I think it's a good way to get some outside picks maybe, and like Taylor Swift, let's say, who's not in any of those decades.
Yeah.
And my two picks are from decades that we didn't cover, so I thought it was a good idea to cover some people.
You mind if I have my pick as the last pick in the video? Because it's a pretty big one.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So I'll go with my fifth and the last one I'm going to talk about on the 80s on here. And then Brian, and then it go back to me. Then okay. And I picked Cher as my fifth pick on here. I think definitely one of the big singers of that period. She started in the 60s, maybe 70s?
Yes, 60s with Sonny and Cher.
And Cher, yeah. So she started a while ago with Sonny and Cher. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. She wanted to be an actress as well. and I think her mom was maybe an actress or something. I can't remember. I remember I looked her up one time, or was a singer or something. So she kind of got in because I think her mom. But yeah, Sonny was like a songwriter. He wrote some songs, and they met and formed a duo. Well, they got married, and Sonny was writing songs for her, I think, and was trying to get her noticed. But she was a little shy on stage, I think, and so she wanted Sonny to sing with her. So Sonny, I don't think was originally supposed to be a duo, but he was like, okay. So they kind of formed this duo, and I know Nick listened. I haven't listened to their albums yet, but Nick's listened to them.
Would you be interested in doing a Cher journey on?
Oh yeah,
like go through the Sonny and Cher stuff and the Cher stuff at the same time.
Yeah, I do want to. I want to go through all that. And they made, I don't know, 5 or 6 albums together. I can't remember. They made a couple albums. The big one being "I Got You, Babe," which was huge on the radio.
Yeah, famously used in Groundhog's Day.
Day.
That part with Sony singing that part, and Eddie Murphy, not Eddie Murphy. What's his name? I forgot the name of the actor, but he's like snatches the alarm clock on the ground because of how frustrated he is. Bill Murray. Yeah. I would say Eddie Murphy. I'm such an idiot, but yeah, Bill Murray. Like he's like waking up to that song, and he's just like, I just want the next day to happen. And then like the when it actually does turn the next day, it's like Cher singing, and like the radio station's like, why are you playing that song again? He's like, it's a good song. And I'm like, it's true, it is a good song.
Yeah. So that was like, and they had like The Beat Goes On. They had several hit songs. They found out that they kind of had a funny banter on stage, and so they kind of got the idea, hey, why don't you do a variety show? And so they did and everybody had a variety show back then, and this is probably getting to the 70s maybe, or late 60s, I don't know. And the Sonny and Cher show was like maybe the biggest of the variety shows that are out there, and it was very famous. Because it's funny because Sonny, he's kind of shorter. He's not particularly good looking, while Cher is like tall and good looking, and she's got the long black hair. So they had an interesting dynamic. And she had some big songs I really liked from that period, like Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves, I think is a good song.
That's a good song.
Is there something about Dark-Headed Woman? I can't remember. There's some good stuff there.
Half Breed's a really good song too.
They were number one. That was like a lot of those were like number one hits too, if I remember right. But anyways, so she had a really good with Sonny, and of course eventually they got divorced and they broke up and all that. But to me, she made tons of albums. I looked up her albums. She made like 20 or so albums. I can't remember solo albums. But to me, I think her 80s stuff was she got some good stuff. I think I Found Someone was a big one. If I Could Turn Back Time is probably my favorite of hers. Famous music video of her. There's probably other ones I'm not thinking on top of my mind, but she had a lot of big 80s stuff, and she had that great big hair, and she great outfits. She also was a good actress. She won the Oscar for Best Actress for what's it called? Something Moon. Gosh, what's the name of that movie? But she won.
I don't remember.
Gosh, I know it was directed by Norman Jewison and had Nicolas Cage in it, and Moonstruck. Thank you, Keith's in there. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Keith. Keith to the rescue.
Keith always rescues me on these. Yes, Moonstruck, which is a pretty good movie, and she won the Oscar for Best Actress in the 80s, I believe it came out. Yeah, so she's also a pretty good actress. And she, I think it went into the 90s. Then she had this like resurgent back in the late 90s, I want to say, with Believe, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And she did like auto tuning. That was the first time I think I've ever heard anybody do auto tuning.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing.
It was a new technology at the time. Like, what is this? But it sounded good. Like, I liked it. Like when she, if you believe in life after love, like that was a huge pop song. It was on the radio a lot. And a pretty good music video too. But I really like that song, and that was a big album for her, kind of a comeback. And she's been involved in stuff like the Burlesque, I think she was in, and she was in the Mamma Mia
sequel.
Here We Go Again or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she still does stuff here and there, but she's iconic. I mean, her look, the way she talked. There's lots of you know, singers that tribute her, you know, and her look and all that. And yeah, I think she's a really good singer and really a pop culture icon of 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s period. So she went a lot of decades. Yeah, so definitely I think belongs on here.
Yeah, I like Cher. It's funny. Even in the mid '60s, she did her solo work. She was even doing solo albums while Sony and Cher were still active. It's interesting. Her first album, All I Really Want to Do. It's like, I'm not saying they're Birds covers, but it's interesting to hear songs that she does that I'm used to the Birds doing. She even does a Kinks cover on her first album.
Oh, really?
It's not on any of their albums. It's called I Go to Sleep. I'm like, huh. It's interesting to hear Cher doing it. I mean, even Sony and Cher did a Kinks song. Trying to remember the name of it. Set Me Free. That's another song. I'm like Cher is like covering these Kinks songs, and I'm like, huh. I'm like, it's interesting to hear like Cher like interpret like a very British band like the Kinks, but that's just me though thinking that. Yeah, she's awesome. I like Cher. I'm excited to do that series.
Yeah. All right, Briar, you're gonna what country?
All right. Okay, so of course, a little backstory. So throughout this series, we've been doing, a couple of us have thrown some wild cards here and there, like Adam with Black. So I wasn't originally gonna do it, but then after seeing Nick and Adam throw theirs, I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'll throw in a wild card myself. So for this last pick, we are flying to Japan.
Japan.
Yes.
I'm glad I was here to see you pick this.
Yep. We're talking about the great Maria Takeyoshi.
Everybody knows.
You're her number one fan here in America.
You're the number one fan.
Probably, most likely. So for those who don't know, so she of course she's from Japan, of course. But of course here in America, most 99.99% of people probably don't know her. But if you go to Japan, that's huge. A whole other story. She's one of the biggest acts from Japan.
Like the Madonna of Japan.
Not like Madonna. It's not like that or anything. It's more like almost like singer-songwriter stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, she has sold over 16 million records in Japan alone. So
if she has 16 million albums, I was gonna be like, what?
She's only 9, but
okay.
Yeah, but 16 million in general. But yeah, she got her start in the late 70s. This right here is her debut album. This came out in 78, and she was pretty young when she started. I think she was just about graduating from university at that time. She released a couple singles around this time and actually got some notice. Got some singles that did pretty well. The reason why I think she graduated during this time is because her next album was called University Streets, which is kind of centered around university, kind of the whole feel of it. And of course, a lot of this music is in Japanese, so of course I don't know exactly what she's singing about. But for me, it doesn't really matter because I can kind of get the idea what she's trying to say just based on the feel of it. And the feel of it is just really great. It's just these great, very hook-laden pop songs, a lot of great keyboard sounds, some good guitar licks here and there. And I know she writes a lot of her songs. Like early on, she had like there were some covers and some people helping her out, but for the most part, she was writing a lot of her songs herself. But there's that. And then these next couple albums were pretty big in Japan. Her third album had a hit single over there called September, not the Earth, Wind, and Fire song, but totally different. But that's besides the point. But yeah, this album did well. Then we get to her next album. This is called Miss M. Now, this is kind of when she was going to try and aim for an American market because half the album was recorded in Los Angeles. She actually got a lot of the big name musicians at the time. I know Steve Lukather of Toto plays on the album. He provides a lot of guitar. Jeff Porcaro on drums on a few tracks. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. She's kind of playing in America, but of course it didn't really do much in America, but still it's kind of fascinating. And there's a lot of great songs in here. Like there's a song called Secret Love on here. That's a great pop song. Really great one. And now she would keep releasing stuff. You have Portrait in 1981 now, so we're entering the 80s now. But then after this album, she kind of decided to take a little break. By this point, she got married, and I think she had I can't remember when I know she has a daughter. I'm not sure when she was born, but assuming it was around that time. And so she was kind of out of the music scene for like 3 years. But during that time, she was still kind of writing songs. And then later on in 1984, her husband, who was also heavily involved in music, he started his own record label called Moon Records, and she decided, and it was around this time Maria was like, I think it's about that time to return. And her husband was originally going to have like outside writers help with the album, but after hearing Maria's songs that she was writing, he was like, I think we're good. I think these songs are going to be good. And so in 1984, she released her comeback album. That was this album right here. And this is called Variety. And this has probably her most well-known song. It's called Plastic Love. It's the second track on here. And that was my introduction to her. And I've told the story before, but how I came across this song was, I was on YouTube looking at bass tabs, and I was like, at random, I saw a Japanese song. I was like, yeah, I might as well hear this Japanese song. Let's see how the bass sounds in that. And yeah, I was immediately hooked by it with the keyboards, and even the bass playing on the track is so good. Just a good groove to it. And just there's horns on here too. Just like it's like one of the, like, I was just blown away just how great the production sounded. Her singing voice, I'm not going to say she's no Whitney Houston, like she's not that type of singer, but it just works for the overall mood she's trying to go for. And yeah, and to me it's like one of the great pop albums that not many people heard of. This is actually, I'd say this is like maybe a top 10 album for me. I'd say I love it that much. And she actually does sing English. She can sing it.
Doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, she does. She doesn't sing too much in English, but when she does, it's usually pretty cool. Like, yeah, you can hear her accents, but for me it works. It's not distracting or anything. Like the one song that's in English is called Broken Hearts, and that's one of my favorite songs from her. It's a great ballad. The horns on there is really top notch. But yeah, like the name suggests, there's a ton of variety on here. Different types of music. But yeah, so this is like her biggest album, her best-selling album. And yeah, and she's still going, and she's still releasing stuff. Of course, not as frequent as she did early on, but she's still very much involved in music. I know she writes a lot of songs for other artists. And what's funny is that there's actually a song that she wrote that the Carpenters would cover. Of course, they had to translate it from Japanese to English, but it was called Heart to Heart. And so, yeah, that was kind of a little fun fact there. But yeah, there you go. That's like my wild card again. She's like kind of it's a weird choice, including a Japanese singer, but to me, she's one of my favorite female artists ever. So I just feel like I had to give her some promotion or so. And I do plan to do a ranking video on her album at some point, but
yeah,
that's going to be a big one.
Maybe I'll listen to her music. Yeah.
Not now. Now after when we finish the Kate Bush series, we might have to go to her.
I know we have to do
maybe. I know most of her albums aren't on Spotify. I think they're on Apple Music though.
Okay. Yeah. After the Kate Bush series, the three of us could do her. If you guys want to, because
maybe
I got to listen to that one album.
I know now I got to listen to it.
I gotta give.
Who knows? Maybe I'll throw this album in our next exchange.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, because I know this is on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah, if you, I mean, any artist that like learns English to to like appease, like not to appease, but like to broaden their like audience. I mean, ABBA's a big example of that. Like they're Swedish and they learned English just to make music. I respect the heck out of them. They might have the accents and all, but I respect the heck out of ABBA. So I feel like if ABBA could do it really well, I feel like she could do it really well.
Yeah, and I know Maria knows English because she actually studied abroad in Illinois, I think, for a period. So yeah, she knows her thing about America.
Yeah.
And I know the Beatles was one of her big influences, so there's that.
Nice.
All right. Well, I might go to Nick because I need to leave for church in about 15 minutes. So we need to close this down in about 15 minutes. So I'll just go to Nick and have Nick do his last bonus pick.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're doing the other bonus pick after on the 90s video.
Yeah, I'll do it on the 90s, I guess.
Okay. My last bonus pick is Johnny Cash. Yeah.
Man in Black.
Yep, the Man in Black. Yeah, I wasn't able to put him in the 60s video because I had so many different artists, and we weren't doing a 50s artist, so couldn't do that either. And
yeah,
and at this point, the 70s, he wasn't really making anything that was like that I knew of that's worth talking about. So here we are. Johnny Cash started his career in 1957 with his debut album, Hot and Blues Guitar. Great album, has three big songs on here: Folsom Prison Blues, I Walk the Line, Cry Cry Cry. Me and Jacob are going through his discography right now. We're doing a deep dive. Check that out. Shameless plug there, but gotta show Johnny Cash there too. Of course, his big album though is Live in Folsom Prison. Huge album for him. Love Folsom Prison. Folsom Prison's a huge album for him. San Quentin is a big album too. It also has one of his most iconic songs, Boy Named Sue.
Yeah.
My name is Sue. How do you do? Now you're going to die. Very iconic.
Yeah.
Love San Quentin as well. I don't know as many albums from him for me to go through his albums. If I did, I'd be listening to so many albums. So
he has how many? 70? Is that the one? Or?
73 in total, if you're counting live albums, compilation albums, and like studio albums.
Yeah.
He has a song called "Hurt." Great song.
I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
"Ring of Fire."
Yeah.
Great song as well. I love Jackson. Jackson's amazing.
Great song.
So many great songs from Johnny Cash. I could go on and on about how much great songs he has, but I don't want to waste anyone's time. But yeah, this is a great. I need to have Johnny Cash in here.
He's there. Yeah.
He's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He had his own variety show, the Johnny Cash Show.
Yeah, the Johnny Cash Show. There's even an album called The Johnny Cash Show. It's another good album.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. He definitely belongs on there.
That's it with my picks.
All right. So that's the end of the 1980s. On
part one.
Part one. Of part two, and and then we'll do the 90s, and then we'll have our bonus picks as well to do then. But so thank you for anybody watching, especially Keith in the chats. I always enjoy that you're always in the chats helping us out. That's always appreciative. Henry Mockingbird was there for a short time. Mike was there. Scotch Geek Guy was there for a short time. So thank you. Thank you to Briar from Briar's Music Showcase for coming on. And thank you to Adam from What the Gym for coming on, doing their picks. Yes, Keith, thank you.
Thank you.
And then thank you to Nick for joining on at the end to give his 2 picks. I guess that's your last 2 picks that you're doing for the.
Yeah, I'm not going to be in any other videos. I'm going to be honest. I don't really know many people of the 90s and the 80s.
You need to venture out your music, yeah. The 80s and 90s. No, but yeah, thanks from Townsend 505.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so this was a nice impromptu. We got all 4 of us on here. Interesting enough, and
yeah,
we'll hopefully be together again on our album exchange whenever that happens.
Hopefully,
thanks
soon.
Keith. Yeah, so for me and everybody, thank you for watching, and have a good Sunday.